So back on YouTube, and good to be back, and hopefully now the chat is working so you can ask questions there. Let me just have a look at the questions I've got here in Instagram. So you speak 15 languages to one turner, okay, but you'd like to learn Macedonian. Do you think that it's worth the time? And is Macedonian difficult to learn? I already speak Russian and Croatian. You speak Russian and Croatian, then no, it's not very difficult for you to learn. Is it worth the time? Well, that depends on your situation. Will you get to use Macedonian? Is it something that you realistically need or want to speak? If you ask me personally, of course it is, because my family is Macedonian as well. And so for me, it's a very important language, and probably one of the most important languages I speak. So yeah, for me it is. I don't know how that fits in with you though, but if you speak Croatian particularly, you'll find it a lot easier. We have a lot of words in common. Oh, the Intrepid Guide. Hello, ciao, hey, nice to see you all. ¿Cuántas horas te dedicas al estudio de cada idioma cuando estudiabas varios a la vez? Pues depende de los idiomas. La verdad es que ahora mismo estoy estudiando varios idiomas a la vez y pues tengo clase en algunos y hago mi mejor para hacer, por ejemplo, 2 veces cada semana. Es el mínimo que hago. Y eso quiere decir que paso, no sé cuánto, 1 hora, hora y media cada semana estudiando un idioma. Depende del idioma también, porque un idioma parecido a otro idioma que hablo es mucho más fácil, porque ya tengo un montón de palabras gratuitas y también de gramática. Así que me ayuda bastante para hacer eso. Y pues con otros idiomas más difíciles, pues lo mejor es cada día, hacer algo cada día, porque si no, no vas a retener todas las palabras en la cabeza. Es igual ahora con el coreano, porque si no hago nada un par de días, ya empiezo a olvidarlo todo. Y así me parece. No es así, pero me parece así. Así que no las cuento las horas que estudio, pero siempre me gusta hacer algo cada día, si posible. How to improve your pronunciation in English? Well, the pronunciation thing is actually something that I would say just in general for languages. Important things to do if you want to improve your pronunciation are record yourself speaking, record yourself repeating something that's already been said in language, so that you can compare the pronunciation and the accent of the original and your own, and then you can hear potentially where the differences are. You can also get feedback from a speaker of the language, whether that's somebody who preferably somebody who speaks it pretty fluently. I mean, whereas sort of native-ish level, I guess, first language level is always best, because they don't need to be a first language speaker, but they need to be sort of pretty proficient in the language to be able to tell you and give you decent feedback as to what you're doing. Also, somebody who's maybe a specialist as well in accent reproduction might be able to help. Even if they don't speak the language, they can tell you where the sounds are produced. Often linguists can do things like that. It depends on what type of linguist they specialize in, but and a linguist doesn't necessarily have the ability to reproduce every sound completely authentically, but they will possibly be able to give you hints. So somebody who studied linguistics might be able to help. Learning the IPA is a good thing, the International Phonetic Alphabet, because then you can actually see how the sounds are represented, and you can find maps of languages and chart them out and see. That's another way. Otherwise as well, asking a native speaker where they feel the sound being produced in their throat or in their mouth, so that they know the position of the tongue and all that kind of stuff. They're the kinds of things that I've done in the past. Let me see. Are there any other questions here? I can see. Lula. Hola, Anya, ¿qué tal? ¿Todo bien? Encantado. Selamat malam, selamat sore, selamat malam. Di sini sore sekarang. Tapi selamat malam. Di Indonesia malam sekarang. Di Indonesia. Okay. Hello everyone. Hello. Okay. So and Wow, lots of nice hellos here. So thank you all for joining and for coming in. I'm just going to say there are a couple of questions. There's a question here, I think, on, or at least a comment here on YouTube as well. Hey, Richard, just want to say that I'm very excited to follow your journey with Korean and to see how you deal with potential struggles along the way. Thank you, John. It means a lot for you to say that, because it's sometimes, you know, when you do have troubles with language learning, you can sometimes feel a little bit vulnerable, and I recognize that myself. You think, oh no, I'm never going to learn this language, or you think, you know, I've messed it up now, and how am I ever going to, you know, really get into it? And absolutely, I think it's worth sharing. Not just, oh, I've learnt this new language, or oh, I'm amazing, I've done this or I've done that. I think it's really important to share when we get things wrong and when things aren't going amazingly well, because otherwise, like kind of on Facebook, and I think, okay, Facebook is a bit different for me. I treat Facebook, for me, it's personally, it's always, I like to have fun on Facebook. So Facebook for me is a place where I like to post silly things. Personally, this isn't my, well, sometimes I'm speaking fluently too, but I like to post silly things that make me smile, things that are important to me in a sort of a, you know, to sort of be positive and stuff like that. Whereas I think sometimes we can forget to talk about just the real picture, not where we've maybe, oh, I didn't learn that language because it was too hard, or I didn't learn that language because well, something happened. Because I mean, I can share those things as well, and I have. You know, it's happened to me with Arabic, where I've started and stopped 3 times, with Georgian again. So it was, it's good to say about, talk about those things, but the thing is, talking about them on a journey where you're actually going through a period of difficulty and then getting over it, I think that's probably more useful. So I'm glad you said that, John, because it makes me feel a lot more reassured about what I'm doing, sharing all of this. So I'm glad it's useful. Okay, with Russian, I was able to do a little every day, but now with Czech and Hungarian, I have difficulties. I try to do different things, talking to tandem partners mostly. This time, I think I need a plan. Yeah, it can help to have a plan, just to sort of see when you're going to do certain things. So if you look at, I wrote a blog post sort of going through this process for myself and what was realistic, and it really does require you to look very carefully at when you have time realistically, what you do when you have free time, whether you can do things on the go. So there could be some apps that you use. At the moment, I'm using this app called Speakly, and it's been pretty good so far. I'm not paid or anything by these people. I don't know where my phone's, I'm talking to my phone. Okay, so I've not got it on the other phone that I wanted to show you. It's only on the phone that I'm talking into now on Instagram. But basically, Speakly app has a number of languages that you can learn. And at the moment, I've been testing it out with Estonian, because I did a little bit of Estonian years and years and years ago, and I've done some Finnish. And I wanted to see how it worked. Actually, I found it quite a good thing to do. The other one that I've enjoyed using recently is Closemaster, because again, it's something I can do just like 5-10 minutes of playing around and doing things, and it's done. And you sort of feel like you've done something, even if you don't have much time for a lot of things, you're just doing a little bit. And then the other thing, obviously, is Link is quite an easy one to just sort of listen to a story and go through it. I think Link requires a little bit longer concentration in terms of, so it would be for maybe a bit longer journey or time that you've got, but to do it justice. Whereas the other ones, yeah, you can pretty much go through. I think Memrise probably has a similar feel to it as well, for if you like Memrise as well. I mean, there's not one app that I particularly, you know, I'm going to say over another, because they're all quite different. So yeah, I think there are ways and means to add them into your life and work out how much time you can do for each. But as soon as you add more languages, you do divide your time. It's inevitable, because you can't think about all of the languages at the same time. And the thinking about the language actually is probably the most useful thing to do, because you're constantly talking and thinking in your mind and going over the language and revising it, therefore. So that's probably the best thing you can ever do. And once you do lots of language, once you study lots of languages, then that's basically all you yeah, all you can do is you divide your time to whenever you can. How's it going? It's going doing okay, thank you. Yeah, bit of a tough couple of weeks, well, a few weeks probably now actually, but doing okay, thank you. Just waiting for some sort of normal life to resume. Do you study grammar, and if so, do I study grammar? Yes and no. So a lot of grammar I study in context. So I pick grammar up in context. If you're studying biblical Hebrew, then it might be a bit different because the types of things that you learn in languages like Latin, biblical Hebrew, Egyptian, sort of ancient Egyptian, or any ancient language, you learn very specific types of vocabulary and verbs and things because it tends to be the stories that are written and you're doing that. So I would say for those things there may be a bit of a difference, but I think looking at the tables can be useful to get an idea of an overview of the language and looking at how the grammar works in that sense. But the key is really context. Context is definitely the most important thing for me. Dari Indonesia, sekarang tidur di Indonesia. Lingo discovery. Betul, benar. Saya pikir tidur sekarang. It's midnight here, dini hari, but we have to say selamat dini hari in Indonesian, and better to say selamat malam and selamat pagi if it's already at 2 a.m. 3 a.m. Wow, okay. Well, dini hari, so it's a new day. Ok. Salutazioni desde Barcelona, Richard. M'encantaria escoltar-te parlar una mica de català. Sí, vaig aprendre català a l'Universitat Carolina de Praga, però jo no parlo molt català perquè és una llengua que no tenim aquí a Macedònia, però és una llengua que m'agrada molt i sí, parlant també castellà en casa. Sí que tinc que pensar una mica en el català que vaig estudiar a la universitat i també el vocabulari, la gramàtica i tot. Doncs, sí, no és tan difícil parlar, però és una cosa amb totes les llengües. Si no parles, no tens l'oportunitat per a practicar les llengües. És sempre un problema para mantener un nivel alto en la llengua. Però penso que va bé amb el català. Està bé. I'm newish to the language learning journey. I'm going to attempt Spanish or French as my second language. Which was harder to learn for you? Okay, so Joey, welcome. It's really good to have you here, and I'm glad you're going to be starting learning a language. Really nice that you're going to pick. These languages are both good. So in terms of Spanish or French, so what's harder to learn? I learned French when I was quite young, so I don't really remember learning it. I've always seemed to speak French, but in terms of difficulty for an English speaker, I would say to write French correctly is more difficult than Spanish, but to speak French is probably a bit easier, just because there are fewer verb forms in French to learn, sorry, as to speak. Spanish has a lot more verb changes with the conjugations. So in Spanish, you have a few more, another past tense that we don't use in spoken French. It's in French, you have a past tense that we use just in written French. And the subjunctive isn't as complicated as in Spanish, and it doesn't change quite as dramatically. And in French, a lot of things sound very similar. So, je parle, tu parles, il parle, elle parle. It all sounds the same, whereas in Spanish, hablo, hablas, habla. It changes very definitely each time. In French mirrors English a lot more closely, I think. So English and French are probably closer as languages. And we have an awful lot of French words in English, so it's probably easier for that reason too. Yeah, that's my thought. I don't know if anybody else has any ideas about this, but that's my thought on French and Spanish. By the way, how long have you been learning Indonesian? Do you find any difficulties while learning bahasa Indonesia? I studied Indonesian about was it 3 or 4 years ago. I did about 2 or 3 months of Indonesian, and to get by in Indonesian is actually not too bad. The verbs get a little bit complicated though if you want to speak it well, and so at the moment, yeah, I can get my idea across in Indonesian, but it's with mistakes and I don't get everything right. But I can definitely. I mean, with my teacher, my Indonesian teacher, we would have an hour-long lesson, and we pretty much only speak Indonesian. Even though it wasn't anything really complicated, it was quite basic. But yeah, it's not too bad. It's a nice language to learn actually, and Indonesian people are so nice. I've had such good experiences with Indonesians that I would love to learn it better, and that's why I've gone back to it and started learning a bit more. Nice to see you from Italy, Tizara, thank you. How many languages do you need to know for being a polyglot? Aslan, whatever, if you decide that you want to be called a polyglot, I don't really mind. I don't have any preference myself. I think poly means many and glot means tongue, so many tongues. But how many is many? And really, does anyone care? If you feel that you're interested in languages and you want to identify as being a polyglot, go for it. It really doesn't make any difference. It's just a nice way to say that you're interested in languages that you possibly wouldn't ordinarily learn. For me, that's all it means now, and I think we should be as open and welcoming as possible for people who are starting on their journey of being a polyglot, interested in languages. Do you think it's worth paying for Link, Memorize, or any other application? Yes, I think it probably is. I mean, I paid for the Link yearly subscription, and the good thing about it is that you get more links. So basically, in Link, you can click on the words and add them to the unknown word list that you have, and you have unlimited when you pay for it. If you don't have the money to do it, or you don't feel like paying for it, I'd say use the free version. See how you go. You can always use the free version first and see. But yeah, I mean, I found it quite handy to have the paid version. But I recognize, as I say, I don't work for any of these companies, and I definitely don't get any commission or anything from them. I just tell you which ones work for me and what I use them for. Speakly, yeah, I have a subscription for them too, and actually, yeah, I quite like that. For Closemaster as well, I have a subscription. But Closemaster's a smaller company, and I think it's just a nice product as well. So I quite like using their product. So yeah, it's nice to support them as well. This is the thing, in language learning, it's nice to support something you think works well. What do I think of the gold list method? I tried it. I found it very difficult for myself. It's just not my learning style personally, but I have met so many people who have done it really well. So my opinion is, if it works for you, it's amazing. And I know somebody who learned lots of Chinese characters and using it and did it really, really well. And so I know it works, like for serious language learners. But for me personally, I tried it a little bit, and I just, yeah, it didn't work for my personality type, unfortunately. Okay, let me see. I'm going to go to I've got a few questions here on YouTube too, so I'm just going to have a quick look. ¿Cómo aprenden idiomas para pensando que una entrevista podría ayudar? ¿Una entrevista? Me parecería bien. Sí, claro. Stagiaire Sama, claro que sí. Escríbeme un mensaje. A lo mejor es en Facebook o en Twitter o también en Instagram. En YouTube no veo mucho los comentarios, la verdad. Pero sí, porque me puedes escribir. Claro. How do you improve listening? Listening a lot, George. There's seriously no way of getting around it. So listening a lot, listening with text so that you can read what you're hearing as well. I think that's really important with listening, so that you know what you're listening to. So yeah, absolutely. But unfortunately, there's no shortcut. For some things you can slow it down. So on YouTube, for example, you can slow down the speed of what you're listening to if you want, and that can help. But sometimes that does sound a little bit strange and electronic. Depending on the language you're learning as well, there are some places where you can listen to things that are actually aimed at learners, and that helps. So like for German, there's Deutsche Welle, and they have some great resources for learners. In fact, I recommended it to somebody just the other day. We were a week or so ago, and they're really enjoying it. Yeah, thank you, you're a legend. Thank you. Do you speak any Central Asian language, like Uzbekistan? Okay, so Uzbek or Kyrgyz or something. I've bought books for Kyrgyz, Kazakh, and what else? And that's about it, I think, for the Central Asian languages, because I already speak Turkish to an okay level, and I would like to learn. Just at the moment, my plate is full, but I would love to learn. I've been actually to Almaty and to Bishkek in that region, and I really enjoyed my time there. I went to see, if anybody of you know Amir, who is a really nice polyglot from Almaty. I went to see him, and we spent a week there, and I really liked it. The people were so friendly and nice, and Heart Your Beard is amazing, thank you. ¿Algún consejo para organizar el estudio durante la semana? Sí, lo mejor es tomar tu calendario en el teléfono y hay que escribir una hora determinada para hacer algo, o media hora, o 15 minutos, o 5 minutos, lo que sea. Y así que vas a tener que hacerlo, porque tienes en el calendario, tienes que ver lo que tienes que hacer durante todo el día, y si no haces tiempo durante el día para hacerlo, no lo vas a hacer. Vas a decir, pues eso puede esperar hasta más tarde, hasta el fin del día, lo que sea. Pero lo que pasa al final del día, después de todo el trabajo, de los otros estudios que están haciendo, ¿qué haces? No vuelvas a hacer. Y así que nunca lo vas a estudiar. Así que lo mejor es escribir, hacer algo muy determinado para escribir, para escuchar, para aprender palabras, para lo que sea. Pero lo importante es tener una hora para hacer todo, cada día, o hora, media hora, 15 minutos, lo que sea. Pero sí, cuando digo hora, quiero decir como tiempo para hacerlo, ¿no? A las 9 voy a hacer 15 minutos, lo que sea. Richard puso Talinika, Pamilado, Tora Oshi, Yeti, δεν μπορούμε να κάνουμε τίποτα στην Ελλάδα τώρα. Τα σύνορα είναι κλειστά και δυστυχώς είμαστε μόνο εδώ στη Βόρεια Μακεδονία και δεν μπορώ να κάνω τίποτα, αλλά κανονικό μου αρέσει πάρα πολύ και γι' αυτό έχω δύο φορές την εβδομάδα έχω ώρες για τα ελληνικά και μιλάω ελληνικά μόνο. Μία ώρα με κανέναν από τη Θεσσαλονίκη και έχω και ώρα αυτό είναι για το επίπεδο Β1 και νομίζω για εμένα είναι πάρα πολύ καλά και πρέπει να μιλήσω για πολλά πράγματα στα ελληνικά και γι' αυτό νομίζω μόνο έτσι μπορώ να το κάνω. Αλλά θα ήθελα να κάνω μια βόλτα στη Θεσσαλονίκη, στα θάλασσα και μόνο να πίνω κάτι εκεί. Για μένα είναι δυστυχώς σαν ένα τραύμα. Tora alam. Ine yaolo setsi. Tora edo. ¿Qué opinas de la babo? No he utilizado Babel mucho, la verdad. Un poco, pero no mucho. Y, y es que es difícil. Si no usas una aplicación, es difícil tener una idea muy, muy fuerte. Me pareció bien, pero es que no lo utilizo, no sé por qué. Babel. Richard, always glad to hear your thoughts. Any advice for learning Finnish when you're, say, at B1 level? So I would say if you're at B1 level with Finnish, there are online, if you Google what was it called now? It's the news that they have in Finnish, but in slow Finnish. Or how do they call it? Uutiset suomeksi, mutta mutta halto suomeksi, I think it's called. But they basically have, and it's all written down. You can actually read the subtitles and watch the news and hear the Finnish. And I think for a B1 level, that's probably the best advice I can give. You could probably still do some of the Suomen Mestari, because Suomen Mestari has 4 levels. And as far as I remember, level there was book 1 was kind of like A1. There's book 2 and book 3 cover A2 ish to A2, and I think book 3 and 4 books 3 and 4 go more towards like a B1 level. So you could possibly do some more Suomen Mestari if you've never done that before. But then I think the uutiset, I think, is probably the best way to go, doing the news in slowed down Finnish. It's a pretty good site, actually. I used to use it. Are you at all familiar with the Galgos languages spoken in Moldova? Familiar, yes. Do I know it? No. But yeah, I'm familiar with it because I lived in Moldova for a little time, and back a long time ago now. And so yeah, I'm familiar with it, but I don't speak it. And it's, yeah, I love all Turkic languages anyway, so it's probably, I love all languages. Let me see. Are there any other questions I'm missing here? Deres, I see the... ok. Estoy haciendo mi ok. ¿Podría alcanzar entrevistas? Sí, claro. Ok, Sergio, creo que has comentado en YouTube y también en Instagram, así que escríbeme un mensaje y vamos a charlar, ¿vale? Okay, I don't think I can learn Spanish. Thank you very much for your help. Okay, awesome. Just to let you know, if you want to study Indonesian again in the future, you'd love to help. Okay, that would be very nice. Thank you very much. I actually am still studying Indonesian, so if you want to speak to me in Indonesian, I'm always happy to speak Indonesian. I love it. ¿Cómo estás? Bien, gracias, Johnny. Foto. Fushidus. Fushidus. I love it. Fushidus is Scots for like, how's it going? I love it. Have you learned second language acquisition at all, Krashen? And if so, how has it influenced you? So I did actually at school in the UK. We had to do first and second language acquisition for my English studies, and so I have done. I've done bits at university too, but not much. So I mean, I would never say I've studied linguistics or anything like that. But it's influenced me more for how I raised my daughter, I think, more than anything else. That really helped. How did your Persian go? My Persian, unfortunately, is gone. I started learning some Persian in the summer, and I think I bit off a little bit more than I could chew. But I hope to get back to it. I'd love to go. I'd love to go through Persian again. What happened actually was that this is what happened. So we got to September, and I did some over the summer, and then I got to September, and some really amazing courses started in languages that I can't ordinarily study. One was in Cornish, another one in Gaelic, and then also some courses for me to also do Greek and Turkish I was studying as well, and just to speak them and practice the languages. And I decided that it was more important for me to do those while I could, because if I missed that opportunity, I would never have that opportunity again. Got this side of retirement, but we'll. So hopefully in the future I'll get back to Persian. There are some great resources for it, and I'm sure it won't take long to get back to it. Cuando te voy a hablar español, me recuerda al andaluz. Muchas gracias. Es que aprendí el español en Andalucía, así que y vivió con andaluces en Francia. Sí, pero de Málaga, malagueño. Y el deje andaluz sí que no me deja en paz. La misma impresión. Sí, es que andaluz, no hablo castellano. Como dicen los argentinos, hablo castellano, pero no, yo no hablo castellano ni nada, hablo andaluz. A ver. The easy news in Finnish is called Selko kieli uutiset. Thank you very much for that. Kiitos hyvä. Okay. Also, kielikoulu is linked to Yle, Yle Arena, and it watch shows for learners. Brilliant. That's really good advice. Thank you so much for that. Kiitos hyvä. Okay. So there's some. I love that you all come up with some great ideas. You all know some really good things. Somebody's asking, where am I? Okay, let's see. Qué maravilla. A ver, Colombia. A ver. Okay. Do you know many sounds? Do you know how many sounds has American English? How many sounds American English has? I have no idea. Don't know how many. I've never counted them, but I'm sure there are quite a few. There are lots of different types of American English as well. American English isn't just one type. There are lots of accents, so and dialects. There are many different sounds in American English. It's quite rich. In fact, I love different accents generally. So yeah. Muy bien. Gracias. Okay, I see that there are some more questions as well on YouTube. So let me see. Do you have any advice on improving listening comprehension? I think I did that one. Μίλαστε. Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ. Στη Μακεδονία έχεις. Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ για αυτό. Τι είναι? Wow. Let me see. Somebody just sent me €5. Oh, Marlon, that's very kind of you. Thank you very much for a coffee. That's super kind. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. That's really kind of you. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to see if I can find any more. Let me see. I can give a super sticker. Okay. What's this do? I don't even know what this does now. Oh dear. No, I don't know how this works. The super chat's quite funny because there's a super chat on YouTube and they tell me what to do with it and I always forget how it works. I love that people are correcting or adding the information about the news. Okay, έχεις αρχεία δεν μιλάς αλβανικά, μακεδονικά και ελληνικά. Ελληνικά δεν μιλάμε εδώ, στη Βορεια Μακεδονία δεν έχουμε με ποιον να μιλήσουμε, γιατί δεν υπάρχει σαν γλώσσα. Μόνο στη Γευγελία υπάρχουν, αλλά είναι μόνο με τους Έλληνες μιλάνε, αλλά δεν μιλάμε στα Σκόπια. Δυστυχώς δεν έχουμε με ποιον να μιλήσουμε. Αλβανικά και βέβαια έχουμε. Αυτό είναι μια γλώσσα εδώ. Τουρκικά, σερβικά, μακεδονικά, βουλγαρικά δεν είναι τόσο μακριά από εδώ. Και έχουμε και... Αυτό είναι βλασικά και ρωμικά. Είναι ρωμικά ή στα ελληνικά, δεν ξέρω. Αλλά έχουμε όλες τις γλώσσες και αυτό είναι καλά, ναι. Δεν νομίζω έτσι μόνο Β1. Ευχαριστώ, δεν ξέρω. Αλλά στα ελληνικά παραπάνω. Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ. Te cuento que soy hablante nativo de portugués porque soy brasileiro. y ahora es un país que habla español y aprendí español también muy bien. Yeah, the Utiset that's a great, and I love that you've got these Selko-Suomeksi. That's it, Selko-Suomeksi. I love it. Yo soy bilingüe, mi siguiente paso será el inglés. Muy bien, rico. Let's see. Yes, portugués, español. Dewi sant, okay, dydd Dewi sant hapus. Ja, diolch yn fawr, David. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Fori. Okay. Es el español, portugués, a ver. Trying to so autocorrect problems. Harry Simcott, do you have any advice for anyone learning a foreign language and is struggling to get from A2 to a B1 level? Honestly, it just takes so much time to get through these levels, and the reason is because you start at the bottom of this, like, imagine a funnel with your language learning. You start down here, right, and you get to this A1 level, but there's not that much vocabulary, and the vocabulary just gets wider and broader every time you move up, and that's what makes it difficult to move up these kind of levels we talk about in language learning. It's literally just reading and making yourself read and talk about and learn about different topics all the time. That's basically all you have to do. I go through that struggle a lot as well. So Melissa, it took me, for example, I did Turkish so I did Turkish A1, Turkish A2, and Turkish B1 officially with the Turkish Language Institute, Yunus Emre. And we did 3 months of 16 hours a week of classes plus 20 hours a week of additional learning over 3 months to get to A1. Same for A2, but from A2 to B1, it took us a year. Well, no, I think, yeah, a year. It took a year because I went a bit slower then. Yeah, I went more slowly. So yes, maybe 12 hours a week over a year, roughly, to get to a B1. So it was, yeah, A1 plus A2, and then a bit extra as well to get to the B1 because of just the amount of vocabulary you have to learn. That's the thing. Similar thing goes for like B2 type levels, and then if you desperately need C1 or C2, then I mean that's realistically it's not needed for many things unless you are desperately you've got something specific you want to do. But I hope that helps. You're not alone. We all go through that pain. You want to improve your English to a B2 level, but studied French B1 and started Swedish A1. Should I focus only on English or should I study the other languages too? French will always help English because English is, our vocabulary is like 60% or more from French, from Norman French and Latin. So you have a lot of shared vocabulary and it can help. Swedish and English have a lot of shared vocabulary because they're both Germanic languages. I mean, look, it depends what you want to do. If you want to just focus on English and improve your English, then of course, if you study other languages, you're going to divide your time, right? But it depends what your priority is, and it depends how bothered you are about getting to this high level in English really quickly. I hope that helps. I tend to go through it that way. I just decide what my priority is. What are my thoughts on defense language aptitude battery? Okay, does it work? I've never used it actually, Osni. So I can't really comment because I've never used it. But if you have any experience, it'd be good to hear what you thought of it. Okay, because someone asked General American should have 24 consonants, 12 vowels, and 5 diphthongs if I counted right. I'm glad you counted them, John. That's good. I'll have to bow to your superior knowledge on that. I have no idea at all. What do I think of Living Language Russian box set course? I've not used it, so I can't say about Living Language Russian. I've used some Living Language stuff years ago and I didn't really get into it, I'll be honest. But yeah. Okay, so Mafi, okay, unfortunately the Arabic script is so small on my screen I can't really read it. Rusika Enochis. Rumi Glossaton. That's interesting. Do you speak Romani? I glossaton ton Roma, aton Roma. I glossaton Roma. Romika, ne. Okay, Romani. Okay. Do you speak Romani? I speak a little bit of Romani. I studied some because people do speak it here, and I like the Romani people. The Roman people are actually very nice here. They're always very friendly and very welcoming whenever I go anywhere. So I have learnt a bit, but I don't speak it very well. Monteflash the Pakship, Pershembo, Soviet, the more in the Soship. Kam suar Jewship edo këtu në Maqedoni, sepse në Shkup kemi mendojsisht një 50% ndonjëherë në një dyqan flasin edhe gjuhë shqip dhe gjuhë maqedonase. Por për mua nuk është shumë e rëndë, sepse është në gjuhë në rrugë dhe në qytet këtu dhe përket dhe kemi edhe televizione nga Kosova dhe nga Maqedonia në gjuhën shqipe. Dhe përket ishte mirë. Në përgjithësi, unë flas edhe shqip çdo ditë në Shkup dhe kam ndonjë kontakt me njerëz dhe përket s'ka asnjë problem. Nuk është në 100% se për mua se gjuha maqedonase për mua unë flas maqedonisht në shtëpi dhe është gjuha ime, në shtëpi me gruajnë tim. Por gjuha shqip no, mirë është. S'ka asnjë problem, edhe për lajmet të gjithë në gjuhën shqip s'ka asnjë problem. Thank you so much for answering my question. You're very welcome. Ukraińsko możecie coś сказать? Okay. Считаете, чьи мовы у вас руки на ділиш? Просто цікаво. Просто цікаво. Okay. So I understand I understand Ukrainian. I just don't speak it. So I can read a lot of these languages that are sort of in the same families, but I don't speak them necessarily. Después del español y el portugués, ¿qué otro idioma me recomiendas aprender? Pues depende de la situación. En Europa, por ejemplo, yo siempre digo a la gente que el alemán está muy bien para aprender, para estudiar, para trabajar y todo. Así que creo que, y también el inglés, claro, si hablas inglés, pues, pero español, portugués, alemán aquí en Europa. Fuera de Europa diría el chino, por ejemplo, también podría ser útil. El ruso. Son idiomas muy grandes, así que se puede utilizar en varios países sin problema. Okay, you were testing my Arabic. The question was what was your favorite language? Okay, I always say German because I learned German with children and I love German. So I love German. My Arabic, I can read the script, but sometimes it's so small when it appears on here. I find it I'm straining my eyes, and when I'm doing a live, particularly, it's very difficult to sort of strain your eyes. I feel very conscious that I'm not looking at the camera and I'm looking at the side. So I feel a little bit conscious of that. But yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't be able to answer that actually very well in Arabic, because it's been a long time anyway. So probably even if I could read it, I probably wouldn't be able to answer it adequately anymore. Method of learning Romanian. I actually learnt Romanian living in my Romanian I learnt in Moldova, and so I spoke. I just spoke with the people on the street. And that's how I did it. But there are some resources, I think. I mean, I guess I would probably recommend Teach Yourself. That's how I first learnt Romanian. So Teach Yourself Romanian was pretty good for me. It got me into the language. Yeah. Okay, let me see. How does Ukrainian compare to Russian for you? So I've been to Ukraine a few times, and I just spoke Russian. I tried to say some nice things in Ukrainian, some polite phrases and stuff, yeah, it's because I studied Czech and I studied Russian, and I've studied Slovak and I studied Polish and a few of the other languages. I've never really studied Ukrainian properly. I have listened to all of the 60 link stories in Ukrainian and Belarusian, and so I do understand it fairly well. But because of those other languages that I've studied and speak, it does make it a lot easier to understand it. I just think that if I were to learn it, I would get it very confused with everything else. It would just be a mess in my head. So I've always said that I won't learn Ukrainian or Belarusian at the moment. I may change my mind. I've said that about languages before, and then I've learned them. So, hey, okay. Did you continue with Latvian? The resources for it are very scarce. I've been back to Latvian a couple of times. The best book that I found for Latvian was called Latviešu valoda ar studentiem, which means Latvian language for students, and that works pretty well for me. I would recommend that actually if you want to learn Latvian. It's pretty hardcore, but it's got some good audio with it, and it worked well. So I used that. There's another one that's called Latvian in 25 lessons. I think and that's pretty good as a basic course as well. But the Latviešu vārda ar studentiem is probably the best one that I found. There's another one I think called darba, which means like work. I think it's called that. And some people recommend that. I've not really used it enough to recommend it, but I know it exists. And then any Latvian at all, and it would be quite difficult for me to get a lot of contact with language. Okay. Para mostrar okay, let me see. Do you speak Macedonian? Yeah, Macedonian is my home language, so I speak Macedonian. Merhaba, nasılsın? Çok iyiyim, teşekkür ederim. Sen nasılsın Said? İyi misin? Buradayım. Şimdi, ¿qué haces para administrar tu tiempo para estudiar idiomas entre trabajo, universidad, familia, vida social, etcétera? Vida social ahora mismo no existe, pero porque con el virus que no podemos hacer muchas cosas, pero en general sí que, pues, forma parte de mi vida, forma parte de mi trabajo, forma parte también de mi vida social, así que utilizo mis idiomas para casi todo. Así que no es como, por ejemplo, tengo que pensar en cuándo voy a estudiar, cuándo voy a hablar, cuándo voy a practicar, porque los uso todos para mi vida. Si hay un idioma nuevo, por ejemplo, sí tengo que tener en mi calendario algo especial para apuntarme, para escribir, para estudiar, para hacer lo que sea. Pero en general los otros idiomas que ya hablo, como el español, por ejemplo, no tengo que hacer nada. Ahora mismo estoy en Clubhouse. Si alguien tiene Clubhouse y quiere juntarse conmigo, pues aquí estoy y siempre voy para charlar con la gente y me gusta mucho porque puedo trabajar a la vez y hablar. Así que tengo mi Clubhouse, mi nombre es Richard Simcott, mi nombre en Clubhouse, y si vosotros tenéis Clubhouse, pues encantado, nos vemos. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to close off the live on Instagram because I'll get cut off. So I'll stop now. I'm just going to carry on YouTube for a little bit longer because I noticed that there are a few more questions and I wanted to answer them. And also because I got stuck in the beginning with technical problems with YouTube. So let me see. Okay. Do you recommend Anki and with audio for memorizing vocabulary? Honestly, with these kinds of just memorizing words, I find it can be fun sometimes. You get into it a little bit, but the words have to mean something to you. So if you're going through a course and you've got the words from the course that you're going through, they mean something to you, so you can follow those and do the tests and things, and it can help, right? Because you test your knowledge. But generally, I find it just a bit too divorced from how the language is used. And I've met people who have done these so many times, but then you actually ask them a question, or they try and get to a conversation, and then none of it's in context, so it's quite difficult. Qual foi a sua segunda língua? Para mim era o francês. Então, depois de inglês, eu falava na casa com a família, e depois disso era o francês na escola. Então, isso também para mim era sempre uma língua quase como um inglês para mim, para falar. Então, sem muitos problemas para comunicar se me estivesse na língua mesma. E também outras línguas que são assim para mim, como o espanhol, porque é uma língua onde eu aprendi a falar bem e logo estava na universidade na Espanha, então falava cada dia espanhol. E tinha também tinha que falar realmente muito bem para estudar na língua mesma. E isso, os outros línguas também, há outros línguas que falam bem, como nível avançado, podemos dizer assim, mas sim, o francês é a segunda língua para mim. Agora mesmo com o macedonês também falo muito bem, porque é uma língua que falo cada dia com a família, também fora da casa falamos macedonês. Can you recommend some ways of making language learning fun? Usually I'm to lose motivation very easily. However, I find that these days I can't even flip a page without cringing. Help. Melissa, I know the feeling. Some things that are fun to get into it are, if you like music, finding songs that you like, following people on Instagram, following people on social media who are learning the language or who teach the language. That can help because it can give you content that's different. Finding content about things that are interesting for you is also really good. So I would recommend doing that. Absolutely. I wrote a blog post actually about it on my blog. It's called content in Korean, or content in Korean, however you want to read it. It's kind of a play on words. So if you go to speakingfluently.com and look for content in Korean, it gives you a lot of these ideas that I've just glossed over now. Hello, alors, comment avance le coréen? Oh, peu à peu, en fait, on va voir. C'est un peu difficile. Tu sais nous faire une petite démo? Oh, ça serait difficile, hein. Enfin, je sais dire vraiment très peu pour l'instant. C'est assez difficile. Quel est le dernier que tu as lu et nous recommanderas? Donc pour moi, en fait, en ce qui concerne les livres, j'ai très peu de temps pour lire des livres en ce moment, mais faut voir, c'est toujours des trucs sur les langues étrangères, en fait. C'est toujours un livre comme ça. En fait, j'ai des bouquins pour le coréen, je les lis quotidiennement. Et puis pour le moment, c'est en fait les livres de Talk to Me Korean que j'utilise. Mais c'est pas vraiment un bouquin que je crois que toi, tu fais dire un roman, quoi. Et ça fait longtemps que je n'ai pas lu un roman. Je me souviens même plus. Tu sais nous parler un peu de ta rencontre avec Tim Donner? Tim Donner, ouais, il est très sympa. Je l'ai rencontré plusieurs fois à New York. Donc on a fait la première fois, il avait 16 ans à peu près. Il a je sais pas combien d'années maintenant, mais c'était super. Il est très sympa, il est très intelligent. Et donc on a passé une journée ensemble, et puis moi je suis resté chez lui pendant 4 jours avec sa famille à New York, et donc c'était hyper bien. Et puis je l'ai revu quelques fois après ça aussi à la conférence polyglotte. On a fait ça en 2015, oui, à New York. Et puis je suis allé à New York encore une fois je sais pas, en 2018, je crois. Je l'ai vu pour prendre un café. Et puis 2018-2019 peut-être. Mais ouais, j'ai vu pour prendre un café ensemble. Puis on a mangé quelque chose ensemble. Et puis non, comme ça, sur Facebook, de temps en temps, on s'écrit. Mais il est hyper sympa, je l'aime bien. Sigo que hablaba 3 idiomas. Jetzt kann ich по-русски тоже. Хорошо. Okay. Is it worth it to learn 5,000 most frequent words as a starting point when you decide to new language? I think you would probably get very bored very quickly if you just concentrated on the most frequent words. Some people think that it works. I've never really done it that way. I tend to learn languages in a more natural sort of way of doing it. So you find that a lot of the common words repeat themselves over and over again, and that's the way I've done it. Is Korean hard as an English speaker? Is it hard like Japanese? So Japanese, I would say for writing, in terms of writing, is probably more challenging because you have 3 different writing systems in one. Of 4 if you count Romanji as well when they write Romanji in it, but hiragana, katakana, and kanji, and then Romanji they add some Romanji in. But whereas Korean is just the Korean alphabet, and so for that alone, it's easier to start learning. It feels more approachable. And also with Japanese, the other problem is if you study any Chinese, as soon as you get to the kanji, it's a nightmare trying to read the Japanese words when you see a kanji that you know from Chinese, and you just want to say the Chinese word instead. It gets a bit. Your mind gets really twisted with it. But yeah, I'd say for that reason maybe. But that's not to say that Korean is particularly easy if you've never studied a language where they change the word order so drastically. Kind of Turkish does that. It's kind of with this, and also I've studied some Japanese before, so Japanese and the Chinese that also helped with a bit with the Korean. So you see words that you know from. I see words that I know from Chinese, for example, every now and again in Korean, and like, okay, makes sense. In one of your YouTube videos, you mentioned 10,000 German words in 1 month by studying vocabulary for 8 hours a day. What method did you use? Okay, so that was a very specific thing that I did in German. I was in Germany. I had to pass an exam in Spain to prove that I spoke German to what they called a fluent level back then, which was like they said I had to have the level of somebody who'd done a degree in German at university. So I had to get a lot of words in my head very quickly. But the difference is that I was using the words all the time, just listening to TV. I was immersed in German. We didn't really have the internet like we do today, so the only language I could use was German, and I was like in a completely German environment. So it was a very, very specific reason I did it. And what I did is I started off with the core words from school level German in the UK. So I'd never studied German at school. So I took the books that they had for the vocabulary and the grammar, and I went through all of the vocabulary for what we call GCSE, and then also I went through the A level stuff as well, which is to 18, and then I just watched lots of TV and spoke on a lot of very different topics. I even read the Bible completely in German. I mean, I went through a lot of stuff in German to be able to talk about a lot of different things. And then when I went to sit the exam, fortunately, yes, I passed. The oral was easier for me. I was memorizing about 130. It wasn't 10,000 words that I covered. I'm sure it can't be that many, but I was studying around 130, 140 words a day, roughly. That's what I was doing a day. But remember that German also has a lot of words that are the same as in English. So it's not. It sounds crazy, but when you think arm is arm, hand is hand, finger is finger, fingernagel. All these things are the same. Shoulder to shoulder. It's not as bad as it sounds. And also German words, when you build them up, they yeah, they make new words. So it was sort of talking about words that build up to create new things, right? But yeah, it wasn't 400 words a day. It was probably 100 140, 130, 140 a day. I was covering in new words. Didn't get them all in my head perfectly. Every day, of course, I had to keep repeating and revising and renewing the words. Some days would be easier because of the words. Let me see. ¿Cuáles son las principales dificultades del hebreo? Es muy difícil aprenderlo para un lusófono. Depende. A mí me gusta mucho. Hay una aplicación que se llama ¿cómo se llama? Prolog. Y hay una aplicación también en iPhone, iPad que tengo aquí, y tiene también no solo el libro, pero también contiene un montón de vídeos, y empiezan muy bien con todas las cosas básicas que hay que saber para hablar hebreo. Y creo que funciona bien, y para cualquier persona sí que funciona bien, porque tienen un sistema para aprendizaje del idioma bastante avanzado, y por eso sí que funciona bien. Si es difícil, depende de lo que vas a hacer con el idioma, pero para comunicar tus ideas en hebreo no, creo que no está tan mal. No es como el árabe, por ejemplo. El árabe es mucho más difícil para empezar a hablar. Okay. Richard, would you study Irish? Yes, I would. Absolutely, I would study Irish. And in fact, it's my goal is to study Irish at some point soon. So at the moment, I'm studying Gaelic, and I'm doing some Manx because it's the year of the Manx language, and Irish is quite similar. So yeah, absolutely. I would love to. I'd love to learn it. I mean, I probably understand some Irish because of Gaelic now, but yeah, I mean, I'd love to. Do you think you would use Anki back then to make progress smoother? Manny, I don't know. So in Germany, when I was studying the words, I used to write them down, and I had them all on pages and pages, and I used to fold the page in two. So I would have the German on one side, the English on the other, and I would go through the German first of all and see if I could say what the English word was, and then if I got stuck, I would note down which ones I got stuck on, and then I'd go through. Then I'd do it the other way and see the English, and then test my German. And I just used to do that over and over again. I mean, like you say, I did it, and in the video I said, I was studying for 8 hours a day in Germany for like a month. So in a month of that, I mean, how many? It's a long time ago now. I did this in like 1999. So it's been a while. Let me see. So it would be, I guess, how long? It's so. Let me see. So let's say 28 days I studied, right, and I did about 140 words a day. So it's like 4,000 words roughly that I studied in a month, and then the next couple of months I just sort of moved forward from there. So I mean, it wasn't 10,000 words, but it was. But after the 3 months in Germany, it develops quite quickly because you start picking up on a lot more stuff. Do you think you would use Anki? Okay, so yeah, Anki maybe. I mean, look, maybe it could have helped. I don't know, but we didn't have it. I didn't even have we didn't even have mobile phones like this. It was. I had to call from a normal phone, from like a landline, to call home. So I didn't even speak to my family very often when I was in Germany. And if I wanted to have a full conversation the first month or so, I had to go to the ice cream parlor and speak to the Italians so that I could communicate fluently with somebody in another language. And the language I had as an option was Italian. That was all I had. The other people in the village didn't speak English. They only spoke German. And the family and I agreed that I'd only speak German, so we never used English. And the children, I wasn't there to teach them English anyway. So with them, I would play in German. So we only really used German for what was basically you know, it was a whole 3 months of just the summer before I went to do the exam in Spain and be tested, and it was just German for 3 months. I mean, it sounds like it's really quick, and you know, this idea of learning a language in 3 months. Normally, I mean, it was a very specific thing that I did. I mean, when I say I learned German fairly quickly, remember I also spoke Swedish, I spoke English, spoke French, and German's got most of its influences are from the other Germanic languages, which it has in common, right? And then English has had an influence on German, especially recently. There's a lot of English words that have come into German, and then also French has had a huge influence on a lot of European languages, including German. So, you know, I had a lot of free words because of this, and it really helped. Before I went to Germany, I did listen to a course. So there's a course called, oh my word, now I'm gonna test my memory to see if I can remember what it's called. Deutsch Plus, I think it was called, and there was a video course that went with it, and I watched the entire video course. I didn't really study the book. I went through the entire video course and just watched it as a series. And you could do a similar thing with like extra, which is EXTR with the at sign extra in German. And you could do a similar thing with that and just go through it and watch it like a series. And that helped to get me into German. And I started picking out words that I knew. And yeah, eventually, I mean, people would correct me a lot, so I got into it, and yeah, over time, I mean, my German really went from sort of zero to, I'm not going to say hero, but it got pretty good. I mean, to the point that I had a German speaking friend at university for 4 years. We studied together, and we only spoke English because I didn't speak German. And she said to me before I went to Germany, like, I want you to call me when you get to the end of your time in Germany, and I want to hear your German. And I did, and I spoke to her in German, and she said, from now on, we're never speaking English again. We're only going to speak German. And every single time I've met with her since then, she's only spoken to me in German. She's never spoken to me in English. And it was quite a strange feeling for me because I almost felt like I'd lost a friend because my friend changed the language of our friendship overnight. And all of a sudden we spoke only German instead of English. And yeah, it was quite strange. But it was a huge compliment, I guess, but it's very strange when if you change the language of a friendship or a relationship, it's very difficult to do that kind of thing. But yeah, anyway, there we go. I hope you enjoyed my stories, and thank you for all of your questions and for your time to come here. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all again next week. Same time, same place, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are in the world, and speak to you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.